When it comes to British scandals, few tales rival that of the infamous Dirty Duchess, Margaret Campbell. Her reputation preceded her union with the Duke of Argyll, but it was the aftermath of their tumultuous divorce that truly solidified her status as one of England's most notorious figures. Indeed, the Duchess harbored a significant secret, one that loomed large in her past. Margaret Campbell's upbringing laid the groundwork for her tumultuous adulthood. Born into wealth, she spent her formative years in the bustling metropolis of New York City, attending exclusive private schools alongside the Armée de la Craie of society's offspring. However, her idyllic existence was soon shattered by scandal. By the tender age of youth, Margaret's allure was undeniable. Men of all ages were captivated by her charm, a fact she relished. In the summer of 1928, she captured the attention of an older suitor, David Niven, an 18-year-old who later became a Hollywood actor. Yet, their dalliance would prove to be anything but ordinary. David Niven and Margaret crossed paths during a holiday on the Isle of Wight, a setting ripe for mischief. With parental supervision lacking, the teenagers seized the opportunity to explore their desires freely. It was during this fateful encounter that Margaret found herself entwined with David, an act that would have far-reaching consequences. While this liaison marked Margaret's transition into adulthood, it also brought forth unforeseen challenges. Months later, she found herself with a child, a circumstance that threatened to tarnish her esteemed reputation. Faced with disgrace, she had but one recourse. The societal norms of the time dictated harsh consequences for unwed mothers, prompting Margaret to take drastic measures. Confiding in her parents, she revealed the scandalous truth of her liaison with Niven and its subsequent ramifications. Chaos ensued within the family, particularly incensing her father. Yet, amidst the turmoil, her parents resolved to salvage their daughter's honor. Determined to shield their family's reputation, Margaret's parents orchestrated her discreet departure to a London nursing facility, where clandestine procedures erased any evidence of her indiscretion. This chapter remained conspicuously absent from Margaret's memoirs, overshadowed by the tumultuous events that followed. Just 2 years later, Margaret astounded society with a bold move. In 1930, she was formally introduced as a debutante, signaling her readiness for courtship and marriage. Despite her prior escapades, this calculated maneuver proved wildly successful, solidifying her place in high society. As the years unfolded, Margaret's beauty only blossomed, captivating all who beheld her. Her debut on the social scene was nothing short of spectacular. She radiated such allure that men were rendered speechless in her presence. By the season's end, she had garnered the coveted title of Debutante of the Year, her suitors vying for her affections. Yet for Margaret, an abundance of romantic options invariably spelled trouble. Behind the facade of seeking stability through marriage, Margaret's clandestine affairs stirred gossip among the elite. Despite the lavish attentions of Prince Ali Khan and the daring advances of aviator Glenn Kidston, it was Kidston who ensnared her heart, despite the peril of his marital status. Undeterred by the risks, Margaret embarked on a tempestuous liaison, earning comparisons to the legendary Helen of Troy. However, before the scandal could fully unravel, fate intervened. In the spring of 1931, tragedy struck Margaret's carefree existence. News arrived of Kidston's demise in a catastrophic plane crash, plunging her into profound despair. Bereft and adrift in grief, she sought solace through tumultuous decisions, setting the stage for further chaos. Navigating the aftermath of such loss proved treacherous, as Margaret hastily accepted proposals from Charles Greville, Earl of Warwick, and publishing scion Max Aiken. Yet, her heart remained untethered, leading her to yet another suitor, the affluent businessman and avid golfer, Charles Sweeney. But even in the throes of impending matrimony, Margaret refused to conform, opting instead to orchestrate further upheaval. Renowned for her impeccable taste, Margaret's impending wedding day became the subject of fervent speculation. Her choice of attire, a Norman Hartnell creation, became a spectacle that brought traffic in Knightsbridge to a standstill. Though the ceremony may have suggested a journey towards blissful union, Margaret's penchant for drama hinted otherwise. In the nascent stages of Margaret's married life, she gleefully envisioned cherubic babies and harmonious domesticity. However, her reality metamorphosed into a haunting nightmare. Despite conceiving effortlessly in her teenage years, Margaret's attempts at motherhood with Sweeney were plagued by a heart-wrenching series of 8 miscarriages. Even when she did manage to carry a child for an extended period, fate delivered a cruel blow. By late 1933, Margaret found herself 8 months pregnant, eagerly anticipating the arrival of a healthy baby. But fate had other plans. Instead of joy, she faced the devastation of delivering a stillborn daughter. Undeterred by tragedy, Margaret persevered, eventually welcoming 2 more children into the world with Sweeney by 1940. Yet, the scars of her struggles ran deep, leaving indelible marks on her psyche. Then, in 1943, fate dealt her yet another cruel hand. For some, life is neatly divided into distinct chapters of before and after. But Margaret's life was about to undergo a seismic shift unlike any other. In her late 20s, while visiting her doctor on Bond Street, Margaret plummeted a staggering 40 feet down an elevator shaft in a freak accident. From that pivotal moment, her life would be forever altered. Against all odds, Margaret survived the ordeal, rescued by fortunate circumstances. However, ominous clues hinted at the true nature of her fall. Recounting the event later, Margaret revealed that doctors surmised she must have clung to the elevator cable, ultimately saving her life, as her torn and bloodied fingernails attested. Despite landing on her knees and sustaining a blow to the back of her head, the most profound damage remained concealed, awaiting discovery. In 1947, just 4 short years after enduring her harrowing accident, Margaret was discharged from the hospital, her head adorned with 33 stitches, to return to her husband, Charles Sweeney, and their young brood. Yet, according to Sweeney, the woman who came back bore little resemblance to the wife he once knew. Instead, Margaret exhibited erratic behavior and impulsive tendencies, which he found most disconcertingly manifested as nymphomaniac tendencies. In retrospect, this period marked the beginning of their unraveling. The fissures in their relationship widened, culminating in a divorce filing in 1947. The motives behind their separation were revelatory. While Margaret's conduct may not have been faultless, she later attributed the dissolution of their marriage to Sweeney's domineering nature. In her words, all Charlie desired in a wife was a beautiful, vacuous puppet. Liberated from marital constraints, Margaret embarked on a journey of self-discovery. The ensuing years ushered Margaret into a realm of notoriety. She indulged in a string of relationships, eschewing conventionality. With her striking allure, Margaret was hardly consorting with the mundane. Notable among her dalliances was a thwarted engagement with Texan banker Joseph Thomas, alongside a liaison with Theodore Rousseau, a curator at the Met. Yet, these encounters merely served as preludes to the arrival of a pivotal figure in her life. Shortly after severing ties with her paramours, Margaret encountered the individual who would irrevocably alter her destiny. Ian Duncan Campbell, the charismatic Scottish peer, renowned as the Duke of Argyll, epitomized the romantic ideal. Possessing a brooding countenance and a curt demeanor, Campbell exuded the allure of a Byronic protagonist, captivating Margaret completely. His ancestral home in Verray Castle mirrored his enigmatic aura. Yet, beneath his picturesque facade, lurked darker depths. Margaret's rendezvous with the Duke of Argyll unfolded against a backdrop of ominous warnings. While Margaret had been wed once before, Campbell had traversed the marital aisle twice, with none of his prior unions offering solace. Renowned for his proclivity for alcohol, gambling, and reliance on prescription drugs, Campbell's reputation as an abusive spouse preceded him. Despite the red flags waving ominously, Margaret ignored the signs, hurtling headlong into a union destined for ruin. In March of 1951, Margaret exchanged vows with Ian Campbell, assuming the mantle of the Duchess of Argyll. Outwardly, she appeared to be ensconced in a fairy tale, basking in the glow of yet another society spectacle. Armed with a title and a formidable spouse, Margaret retained her status as a fashion icon. Yet beneath the veneer of opulence lay a nightmarish reality. Marriage to Campbell proved akin to striking a Faustian bargain, with Margaret unwittingly surrendering her financial autonomy to fund the restoration of Inverary Castle, Campbell's ancestral domain. Reduced to a mere financial asset in her husband's eyes, Margaret's plight mirrored that of countless victims before her. Meanwhile, Margaret's own descent into turmoil gained momentum. Elevator mishap notwithstanding, Margaret's eccentricities had long perplexed those in her orbit. Described as lacking in humor, even by her closest confidants, Margaret's self-proclaimed bird brain and unwavering vanity overshadowed any other facets of her persona. Her preoccupation with superficial appearances proved to be her Achilles' heel, precipitating a cascade of misfortunes. In a notorious incident, Margaret's disdain for gossip and penchant for social snobbery became manifest. When a guest jestingly proposed swapping tails at a soiree, Margaret's disdain was palpable. With a withering glance, she rebuffed the suggestion, declaring the event unsuitable for such trivialities. Her acerbic wit, though occasionally cutting, underscored her penchant for scandal when not shrouded in solemnity. In the wake of her union with the Duke of Argyll, Margaret swiftly realized her mistake. Despite her beauty, she found herself ensnared in a relationship characterized by intimidation, manipulation, and degradation. Compounded by her struggles to conceive, Margaret's predicament reached a breaking point, propelling her towards a desperate and sinister scheme. Faced with mounting insecurity over her fertility issues, Margaret embarked on a treacherous path. Reports suggest she targeted the Duke's sons from his previous marriage, concocting forged letters alleging their illegitimacy in a misguided bid to secure her own position of power. Yet, her machinations didn't end there. Desperate attempts to procure happiness through material means led Margaret down a perilous road. In a shocking turn, she explored the possibility of acquiring an infant boy, envisaging him as a pawn in her elaborate charade to solidify her status as the rightful heir's mother. Clearly, her second marriage teetered on the brink of collapse, foreshadowing darker days ahead. The Duke's growing suspicions of Margaret's infidelity prompted invasive measures, including the covert wiretapping of her vehicle to monitor her movements. However, his paranoia knew no bounds. Faced with Margaret's increasing detachment and a mysterious locked drawer in their home, the Duke's curiosity spiraled into obsession. In a fateful decision, he enlisted a locksmith to breach the forbidden compartment, unveiling a trove of incriminating evidence. Among the revelations lay a collection of explicit Polaroid photographs, exposing Margaret's clandestine liaisons and shattering the illusion of their marriage irreparably. From that moment on, nothing would remain the same. The revelation of Margaret's private collection of Polaroids presented a formidable challenge in itself, capturing intensely intimate moments with Margaret in a state of undress. These photographs bore a damning hallmark, her distinctive three-string pearl necklace. However, the true devastation lay not in her nudity, but in the presence of other men, none of whom were the Duke of Argyll. Despite their heads often being cropped from the frame, their indiscretions were unmistakable, stoking the flames of the Duke's wrath. In a swift, retaliatory move, the Duke initiated divorce proceedings against Margaret, spurred by her alleged affairs. Yet, his retaliation didn't stop there. In a sensational court filing, he accused Margaret of engaging in extramarital affairs with a staggering 88 men. The scandalous revelation catapulted their marital strife into the public eye, garnering widespread attention and earning Margaret the moniker the Dirty Duchess. Unwilling to passively accept her husband's accusations, Margaret launched a counterattack. She alleged that the Duke himself had been unfaithful, citing an affair with her stepmother, Jane Corby Wigham. However, her attempt to tarnish his reputation backfired spectacularly when she failed to substantiate her claims in court, leading to her humiliation and hefty damages awarded to her stepmother. As the divorce proceedings unfolded, the press voraciously dissected every salacious detail, perpetuating Margaret's infamy. The unveiling of a particularly infamous photograph depicting Margaret kneeling before a headless man fueled speculation and frenzy. With Duncan Sandys, the British Minister of Defense, emerging as a prominent figure in Margaret's tangled web of affairs, the scandal reverberated throughout the nation, tarnishing reputations and triggering resignations. Yet, amidst the chaos, the true identity of the enigmatic headless man remained elusive, fueling further speculation and scandalous conjecture. Despite lingering speculation surrounding the identity of the enigmatic headless man, historians contend that Hollywood actor Douglas Fairbanks Jr. is the likely candidate, supported by handwriting analysis matching that found in the photograph. However, Margaret Campbell maintained a dignified silence regarding the identities of her alleged paramours, a gesture of discretion that concealed a scandalous truth: some were closeted gay men. Revealing their involvement risked exposing their clandestine lives, fraught with legal ramifications in a less progressive era. Regrettably, Margaret's graceful silence failed to earn her respect in the eyes of the court, presided over by the conservative Lord Wheatley. In a scathing final judgment, Wheatley branded her as completely promiscuous and wholly immoral, sealing her fate as a social pariah. Despite obtaining her freedom through divorce, Margaret's reputation lay in tatters, a casualty of societal prejudice. The dawn of the 1970s heralded an era of changing attitudes towards sexuality, prompting expectations of Margaret's rehabilitation in public perception. However, her attempt to restore her image through a memoir titled Forget Not backfired spectacularly. Criticized for its embarrassing content and excessive name-dropping, the memoir served as a final blow to Margaret's aspirations for redemption. Struggling financially and facing widespread disdain, Margaret resorted to a desperate bid for relevance, further perpetuating her downward spiral. Margaret safeguarded the identities of her mysterious lovers, including the enigmatic headless man, but she shamelessly capitalized on her own notoriety. However, her methods were cringe-inducing. She transformed her residence at 48 Upper Grosvenor Street, where her ex-husband first stumbled upon scandalous photographs, into a lucrative tourist attraction. Oh, Peggy, what a spectacle! Yet, there was a deeper descent awaiting her. As Margaret aged, her dignity waned, accompanied by a souring of her personality. Allegedly, she confided in no one but her pets, forsaking empathy for acts of cruelty. According to a maid, her dogs received superior treatment compared to her staff. But karma, relentless as ever, had its sights set on Margaret. Despite her extravagant tastes, Margaret's bank account couldn't keep pace, forcing her to vacate her infamous residence. She traded it for the Grosvenor House Hotel and later, at the insistence of her children and first husband Charles Sweeney, settled for a modest apartment building. With each move, she shed another layer of dignity. In the late 80s, the scandalous Duchess sought new revenue streams. She graced television screens, appearing on programs like the talk show After Dark to discuss the Grand National Horse Race. Though fitting for her aristocratic image, Margaret's quip about representing the horse's perspective hinted at darker undertones. Halfway through her appearance on After Dark, Margaret abruptly left the stage, citing fatigue as the cause. While understandable given her age, which was well into her 70s, it hinted at a broader decline in her health, a decline that would culminate in a tragic incident. By the early 1990s, Margaret's health had deteriorated to the point where she could no longer care for herself, leading her children to place her in a nursing home. It was here that tragedy struck again. During a visit to the bathroom, Margaret suffered a severe fall, breaking her neck. Unlike her previous accidents, she was too frail to recover. She passed away on July 25, 1993, leaving behind a lasting legacy. Margaret Campbell, the Duchess of Argyll, continues to captivate certain circles. In 2022, Amazon released a series titled A Very British Scandal, chronicling her sensational court battle with her husband. Claire Foy portrays Margaret, while Paul Bettany takes on the role of Ian Campbell, the Duke of Argyll. One can imagine Margaret relishing the Hollywood portrayal of her tumultuous life. Despite her scandalous reputation, Margaret Campbell was deeply concerned with class and etiquette, often lecturing on the importance of presenting oneself to society. She famously remarked, reflecting on her affection for animals and her penchant for pearls, always a poodle, only a poodle. That and 3 strands of pearls. Together, they are absolutely the essential things in life. Margaret's popularity during her lifetime was evident in the homage paid to her in the lyrics of the Cole Porter song, You're the Top, where she is mentioned under the name she bore during her first marriage. The lyrics go, You're Mussolini / You're Mrs. Sweeney. Margaret acknowledged this tribute in her memoirs, underscoring her awareness of her widespread influence. Do you find Margaret Campbell's story interesting? Please leave a comment below this video. Thanks for watching. Please follow our YouTube channel to see more interesting videos.